The Galactic Recon squads had always been the epitome of elite warfare. Across multiple galaxies, their reputation was legendary. Trained in the most advanced technologies and stealth tactics, they were deployed on covert missions where no one could detect their presence. Each member was a master in observation, infiltration, and neutralization, making them an unstoppable force on any battlefield. The mission to scout Earth, however, seemed almost beneath them. A planet full of primitive, underdeveloped beings, with little more than rudimentary weaponry. Their goal was to assess Earth's military capabilities and determine whether an invasion was viable. The recon squads, relying on the superiority of their advanced technology, began their mission with an air of arrogance. They approached Earth's atmosphere in complete silence, cloaked from all detection methods, as their ship glided effortlessly through the vastness of space. From their advanced sensors, they could already tell that Earth's military infrastructure was outdated. There was no threat of an immediate defense, and the humans didn't seem to have any advanced technology capable of fighting back. Their initial landing zone was a remote forest in North America. The squad leader, Commander Xar, scoffed at the primitive human technology they would encounter. "This is their strongest asset?" he remarked as he looked at the small radar system monitoring their entry. He didn't even bother to order a thorough scan of the area. He already knew that no one could detect them. The first few hours of reconnaissance confirmed their expectations. Earth's military scouts appeared primitive, wearing basic uniforms, armed with outdated weapons, and relying on simple tactics. The recon squads laughed amongst themselves, observing these so-called elite forces from their concealed positions. Xar couldn't help but think that Earth scouts were no match for the recon squad's superior training and technology. To them, Earth's forces were like children playing war games, incapable of understanding true military strategy. The recon squad's initial encounter with a human military scout, a member of a U.S. Special Forces team, only solidified their belief. They watched as the human soldier walked through the woods, oblivious to their presence. The man carried a standard-issue assault rifle, scanning the area in what seemed like an overcautious manner, without any understanding of how vulnerable he was. Xar's team prepared to ambush him, confident that this would be nothing more than a quick elimination. "Let's make this quick," Xar ordered. The team moved in, confident their mission would be as simple as all the others before. They prepared their weapons, each alien soldier silently approaching the human scout from different angles. Their advanced equipment allowed them to see through walls, track heartbeats, and detect the faintest movements of their prey. The squad was sure that the human wouldn't even know what hit him. But just as they closed in, the unexpected happened. The human scout, seemingly unaware of the approaching alien forces, made an abrupt move, diving behind a tree and bringing his weapon to bear in a split second. It was a move that no machine could have predicted. A momentary shift in human instinct that threw off their careful calculations. Before they could react, the human soldier, with incredible precision, fired a shot that disabled one of the recon squad's members, sending him crashing to the ground. Xar froze. This wasn't supposed to happen. The alien soldiers, normally so quick and efficient, had been caught off guard. Xar ordered his team to fall back momentarily to reassess. The human soldier had seen them coming, but how? He should have been caught in their trap with no chance of escape. The recon squads had believed Earth's military was primitive, incapable of the subtlety and sophistication that defined true warfare. They had thought the soldiers would react like mere animals, predictable and easy to manipulate. But this human had shown them something different, the unexpected. Their overconfidence began to falter. They watched as the human quickly repositioned himself, using his knowledge of the terrain to gain the upper hand. His movements were precise and deliberate, his actions honed through years of training that no technology could replicate. Despite their superior technology, the Galactic Recon squads found themselves in a situation they hadn't expected, facing a human who was far more dangerous than they had imagined. The recon squad's initial mocking and dismissive attitude toward Earth's military began to shift. Xar called for a retreat, but the human was relentless. Using the environment to his advantage, he continued to move in ways that confused the squad's sensors. The recon squads could not track him as easily as they had predicted. They had assumed that Earth scouts, though trained, would be no match for their superior alien technologies, but now, they were faced with something they couldn't calculate: an unpredictable human soldier, fighting with raw skill and an instinct for survival that no alien tech could measure. Xar was beginning to understand the true power of humanity. It wasn't in their weapons or their technology. It was in their ability to think outside the box, to adapt to the circumstances, to survive against overwhelming odds. The recon squads had spent years fighting advanced civilizations with far superior technology, but none of those civilizations had this human spirit. A spirit that could turn the tables in the blink of an eye. Earth's military might not have the most advanced weaponry, but it had something far more dangerous: a warrior mentality that could not be quantified by even the most sophisticated alien technology. For the first time, Xar felt a sense of doubt. He had underestimated humanity, and now, it was clear that Earth's warriors were capable of much more than just brute force. They were clever, resourceful, and relentless. The recon squads had thought they would sweep through Earth's defenses with ease. But the reality was beginning to set in: Earth's warriors were not as primitive as they had believed. And this human scout, with his quick thinking and survival instincts, was a testament to that fact. The Navy SEAL, alone in the wilderness, had been briefed on his mission, but he wasn't here to simply follow orders. He had seen the reports, understood the danger, and knew what was at stake. Earth's survival had never depended on a single soldier before, but today it did. He was a force of nature, trained to survive in the harshest conditions, to outthink, outmaneuver, and defeat opponents who vastly outmatched him. As he crouched low, keeping his body hidden in the foliage, his eyes scanned the area, constantly adjusting his position, staying aware of his surroundings. He had been tracking a different target, one that had no idea he was already on their tail. It wasn't just the alien forces that he needed to be cautious of, it was the environment itself. But when he saw the first signs of the recon squad's presence, his instincts kicked in. He wasn't surprised. He knew this day was coming. He had anticipated them before they even landed. Earth's enemies were arrogant. They believed that their technology and firepower made them invincible, but they failed to consider something fundamental: human adaptability. The SEAL's training had prepared him for this kind of situation. He didn't rely on fancy gadgets or high-tech equipment like the recon squads did. He relied on the basics: patience, knowledge of the terrain, and a tactical mind that could adapt to any situation. The aliens thought they could move undetected, but that was their first mistake. They underestimated the power of human instincts. The recon squads, with all their advanced sensors and surveillance equipment, had missed the most obvious sign of human presence, something they couldn't measure or track. The SEAL moved silently, his every step calculated. As he watched the aliens approach, he didn't just rely on the tools of his trade. He trusted his ability to read the terrain, to blend into the shadows, to turn the environment into his weapon. It was instinct that kept him a step ahead of the recon squads as they moved closer to his position. They had no idea he was already within range, no idea that they had walked right into his trap. When he saw the first alien soldier, he didn't hesitate. His movements were precise, almost surgical. A quick strike disabled the first alien, sending a jolt of confusion through the recon squads. They hadn't even seen it coming. The technology that had made them so confident was useless against the SEAL's unpredictability. Their advanced optics, their motion detectors, none of it could prepare them for the SEAL's ability to think on his feet and use every advantage the terrain gave him. The recon squads regrouped, their confidence starting to crack. This wasn't going according to plan. They had thought the human soldiers would be easy targets. A single alien operative could have neutralized the human soldier in an instant. But the SEAL wasn't a simple soldier. He had an uncanny ability to disappear, to remain hidden in plain sight, to use his knowledge of human survival techniques to stay one step ahead. It was like playing chess with an opponent who never made the same move twice. Xar, the squad leader, watched the situation unfold with growing frustration. He had expected to be in and out of Earth's defenses without anyone even noticing. But the SEALs' ability to adapt had thrown their entire strategy into chaos. The recon squads were equipped with technology that allowed them to predict the most likely movement of their enemies, to track their targets across vast distances, but the SEAL was doing something they hadn't accounted for. He was unpredictable, and that made him far more dangerous than any alien they had encountered before. The SEAL moved again, staying low, keeping to the shadows. He didn't rush his next move. He knew the aliens would be on high alert now. The sound of his own breathing was steady, calm. His training had conditioned him to stay focused, to block out the noise of the world around him. He didn't need technology to see the aliens. He saw them in his mind's eye, predicting their movements before they even knew they were making them. He waited for the next alien soldier to move into position. With the slightest shift, he was gone, a blur of motion that the aliens couldn't even track. A quick takedown, another alien soldier eliminated. They were starting to panic now, their once confident movements growing erratic. This wasn't just a mission gone wrong. This was an existential threat to their perception of superiority. The recon squads had been sent to Earth because they believed the humans were nothing more than a nuisance. Now, they were facing a human soldier who seemed to defy all logic. Each time the SEAL struck, he did it with precision, like a surgeon removing a tumor. His focus was unbreakable, his movements smooth and efficient. He didn't need to overpower his enemies. He just needed to outsmart them. The aliens, despite their vast technological advantages, couldn't keep up with him. They tried to regroup, to form a plan, but the SEAL was always one step ahead. His mind was sharper than their sensors, his instincts faster than their technology. The first wave of recon squads was down. Xar's team was now more than just outmatched. They were confused, uncertain. They had always prided themselves on their ability to deal with any threat, but this human was something entirely different. They had thought they could eliminate him with ease, but now they were the ones on the defensive. They began to question their own assumptions about Earth's warriors. Xar ordered a retreat. It was the only option left. They needed to reassess the situation, regroup, and come up with a new strategy. But the SEAL wasn't done yet. He continued to hunt, using the cover of darkness and his knowledge of the terrain to close in on them. The alien squad was disoriented now, struggling to maintain any semblance of order. They had never faced an enemy like this, one who didn't rely on advanced weapons or technology but instead on raw human instinct and intelligence. The SEAL had taken them to their breaking point, and there was no telling how far he would push them before they finally realized they were out of their depth. The Galactic Recon squads were no longer laughing. They had underestimated Earth's greatest asset, the human spirit. The Galactic Recon squads were starting to feel the weight of their overconfidence. Every move they made, every tactical advantage they thought they had, was being turned against them. Xar's frustration grew with each failed attempt to catch the SEAL. The advanced sensors that had once been so effective in tracking enemy movements now seemed useless. The alien soldiers were trained to anticipate their opponents, to predict actions based on patterns. But this human was different. The SEAL was unpredictable, and every time they thought they had him cornered, he was already gone. They tried to regroup, but the SEAL kept them off balance. He was everywhere and nowhere all at once. When they thought they had a solid lead, he would vanish into the terrain. His knowledge of the environment, his ability to adapt, was something the aliens couldn't account for. Xar had seen countless battlefields, but he had never encountered an enemy like this. The human soldier wasn't just skilled, he was intelligent in a way that defied their expectations. His survival instincts were far beyond anything the aliens had encountered in their decades of reconnaissance missions. The recon squads were used to overwhelming force, to using their advanced technology to control the battlefield. But this SEAL wasn't intimidated by their weapons. He didn't care about their technology or their superiority. The SEAL was relying on the one thing they couldn't measure, his mind. He anticipated their every move, outmaneuvered them in ways that no computer or algorithm could predict. The aliens' superior weapons and gadgets were useless against a human who understood the most important aspect of warfare: psychology. As the alien squad tried to regroup once again, they began to feel the pressure of the situation. They were no longer the hunters, they were the hunted. The SEAL had flipped the dynamics completely, using their own tactics against them. Xar's leadership was being questioned by his own soldiers. They had always believed in the superiority of their methods, but now they were being made to look like amateurs. Every attempt to track the SEAL was met with failure, and every encounter ended with one or more of their soldiers down. Xar had to admit that something was fundamentally different about this human. His team had relied on superior technology to outsmart their enemies. But here, on Earth, the SEAL was turning their own advantages into weaknesses. He was exploiting their over-reliance on technology, turning their own arrogance into their downfall. The more they relied on their gadgets, the more they lost control of the situation. The SEAL's ability to remain undetected and strike from unexpected angles was wearing down the recon squad's morale. They were no longer moving with the same confidence they had when they first arrived. They began to hesitate, second-guessing their actions, unsure of where the SEAL would strike next. Xar could see it in their eyes, doubt. And doubt was the one thing that could destroy even the most elite warriors. The SEAL's movements were becoming even more unpredictable. He wasn't just avoiding detection now, he was actively turning the environment into a weapon against them. Using the natural features of the landscape, he created confusion, misdirection, and fear. The recon squad's technology, which had once been their greatest strength, was now working against them. Their advanced sensors couldn't track the SEAL when he wasn't following any predictable pattern. He wasn't trying to destroy them with overwhelming force, he was wearing them down, mentally and physically, with his relentless unpredictability. With each passing moment, the recon squads were being drained of their confidence. They had expected to face an army of humans with outdated technology, easily crushed under the might of their superior firepower. Instead, they had encountered a single human soldier who understood warfare on a level they couldn't comprehend. The SEAL didn't need the most advanced weapons, he needed only his wits, his training, and his ability to adapt. The aliens began to make mistakes. They became more desperate, more careless. Their movements grew sloppy as they tried to close in on the SEAL, but they couldn't predict where he would strike next. Every time they thought they had him cornered, he was gone, leaving them with nothing but confusion and a growing sense of dread. The SEAL's tactics were starting to break them down, piece by piece. They weren't just losing soldiers, they were losing their sense of superiority. Xar could feel the shift in the air. The recon squads, once so confident in their ability to outsmart and overpower any enemy, were now facing something they couldn't control. This human was not just a soldier, he was a force of nature, something that the aliens couldn't quantify with their technology. The SEAL's unpredictable tactics were forcing them into retreat. They had no other choice. Their advanced weapons and sensors couldn't match the SEAL's ability to think outside the box, to use the environment to his advantage. The human had forced them into a position they had never expected. The aliens had always believed that technology was the key to victory. They had spent years perfecting their methods, developing advanced weapons and tools to give them the edge over any adversary. But against a single human soldier, they were finding that technology alone was no match for the sheer unpredictability of human nature. The SEAL's ability to adapt, to think on his feet, was a power that no amount of technology could defeat. Xar knew it was over. The recon squads had lost. The SEAL had taken everything they had thrown at him and turned it against them. He had proven that the greatest weapon in warfare wasn't technology or firepower, it was the ability to think, to adapt, and to survive against the odds. The aliens had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The SEAL had made it clear that Earth's greatest strength lay not in their advanced technology, but in their indomitable spirit and resilience. As the last of the recon squads retreated, Xar had only one thought on his mind: they had underestimated Earth's warriors, and that would be their greatest mistake. The human soldier they had laughed at had taught them a lesson they would never forget. Earth's greatest weapon was not its technology, but its ability to defy all odds and survive. The Galactic Recon squads had been through countless missions before, but none had left them as broken as this one. Xar, the squad leader, could feel the weight of failure pressing down on him. This was supposed to be a quick mission, an easy task for his elite team of recon soldiers. Yet they had been caught off guard by a single human soldier. Their technology, their training, none of it had been enough to defeat him. And now, with their mission in tatters and their morale shattered, they were forced to retreat. The SEAL had turned the tables on them, using his superior knowledge of the terrain and his unpredictable tactics to dismantle the recon squads piece by piece. What had started as a simple scouting operation had become a humiliating rout. Xar had never experienced anything like it. His squad was experienced, well-equipped, and trained for the toughest situations, yet they had been outsmarted by a single human. The SEAL had turned their own arrogance against them, exploiting their reliance on technology and their overconfidence in their superiority. As they regrouped, Xar couldn't help but replay the events in his mind. The human soldier hadn't relied on advanced weaponry or technology to outsmart them. He hadn't used the kinds of tactics they had been trained to counter. Instead, he had relied on his instincts, his adaptability, and his relentless drive to survive. It was something the recon squads hadn't anticipated. They had assumed that Earth's military was as primitive as its technology, but they had been wrong. The SEAL had proven that there was a force more powerful than advanced gadgets and weapons: human ingenuity. Xar couldn't deny the respect he felt for the human soldier. The SEAL had shown them that Earth's warriors were not to be underestimated. He had taken everything the aliens threw at him and turned it into an advantage. Each move was calculated, each action driven by the desire to outthink, outmaneuver, and survive. The SEAL had made them question everything they had known about warfare. He had turned the concept of victory on its head, showing that the true power in battle wasn't in the size of the weapon, but in the mind of the soldier wielding it. The retreat back to their ship was marked by a heavy silence. The pride of the Galactic Recon squads had been shattered, and the weight of failure hung over them like a cloud. Xar, despite his many years of experience, couldn't find the words to rally his troops. They had failed, and they knew it. The mission that had been deemed an easy victory had turned into a lesson in humility. When they finally returned to their command center, the rest of the galactic fleet awaited them. The higher-ups had been informed of the situation, and Xar's team was debriefed on their failure. They couldn't lie about what had happened. They couldn't spin the story. The report was clear: Earth's warriors, though technologically inferior, had something the Galactic Recon squads had failed to account for. Something that no amount of advanced weaponry or sensors could counter. The human spirit. The determination to survive against all odds. Xar's report was blunt. We underestimated them. They are far more dangerous than we thought. Their soldiers, though equipped with primitive weapons, fight with a resilience and resourcefulness we cannot predict. We had superior technology, but they had something else, something we cannot measure with our instruments. The higher-ups, once so sure of their superiority over Earth, listened in silence. Xar's words struck a chord. The Galactic Recon squads had faced dozens of species, each more technologically advanced than Earth. But none of them had fought with the tenacity and adaptability of humanity. The higher-ups had assumed that Earth's lack of advanced technology would make it easy to invade. They had thought the planet would fall without a fight. But now, they knew that Earth was not so easily conquered. In the days that followed, the Galactic Recon squad's failure was analyzed, and the mission was considered a complete loss. Xar's team had failed to neutralize the human threat, and they had been forced to retreat. The data they had gathered on Earth's military capabilities was inconclusive. The higher-ups, while still intent on conquering Earth, now knew that the task would not be as easy as they had first thought. The retreating recon squads sent one final transmission back to their commanders. The humans are not weak. They are not easily defeated. We will need more than just advanced technology to conquer them. We will need to adapt, to understand the true nature of their warriors. Xar could feel the shift in the atmosphere as the higher-ups processed the information. They had underestimated Earth, and now they knew better. Xar's report was clear. The recon squads had lost not because of a lack of resources, but because they had failed to understand the one thing that made humans so formidable: their spirit. The human drive to survive, to fight, to adapt in the face of overwhelming odds. That was something the recon squads had never encountered before. The message was sent, and the higher command began to reassess their plans for Earth. Xar knew that their next mission would not be a quick one. It would not be a simple invasion. They would have to rethink their entire strategy. Earth's military might not have the most advanced technology, but they had something far more dangerous: the unyielding will to fight for survival. As the recon squads reflected on their failure, they realized that their respect for Earth had grown. They had learned the hard way that humanity's true strength lay not in its weapons, but in its warriors. And that was a lesson they would never forget. The Galactic Recon squads had been humbled by a single human soldier, and they knew that the next time they encountered Earth's warriors, they would face an entirely different kind of battle. One that would require more than just technology. It would require respect, strategy, and a deep understanding of the human spirit.